Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I want to ask you a simple question. Are you living your life or just managing it? Because most people are not tired of life. They're tired of living the same day again and again and calling it a life. Today, if you allow me, I want to share 10 keys that don't just improve your life. They transform it not next year, not next month, but from this very moment. Your thoughts are the silent architects of your entire life. Long before anything happens on the outside, it begins on the inside, in the quiet corners of your mind where nobody else can see. Most people don't realize this, but your mind is constantly talking to you, constantly shaping your mood, your decisions, your relationships, your confidence, and your destiny. And the truth is, if you don't consciously choose your thoughts, your old patterns, fears, and doubts will choose them for you. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant the seeds you want, weeds will grow by themselves. Negative thoughts are like those weeds. They don't need permission, they don't need effort, they don't need your invitation. They simply grow. But positive thoughts, empowering thoughts, focused thoughts, those need intention, they need care, they need awareness. And that's where life begins to change, the moment you stop letting your mind wander unconsciously and start guiding it consciously. Most people wake up and immediately allow their minds to drift into worry. What if I fail? What if something goes wrong? What if I'm not enough? These thoughts create fear even before the day begins. And when fear enters first, peace has no space to sit. The mind becomes a battlefield, but the enemy is invisible. And the wounds don't bleed physically, they bleed emotionally. They drain enthusiasm, confidence, and clarity. But when you consciously choose your thoughts, you step into a different version of yourself. You take back the steering wheel of your inner world. And once you take control inside, the outside cannot shake you so easily. Choosing your thoughts doesn't mean forcing yourself to be unrealistically positive. It means becoming aware of what you're thinking and asking yourself, is this thought helping me or harming me? Most people never ask this question. They just assume every thought is true. But a thought is not a fact, it's a possibility. And you can choose better possibilities. When you choose thoughts of gratitude, you start noticing what's working in your life. When you choose thoughts of growth, you stop seeing obstacles as threats and start seeing them as teachers. When you choose thoughts of patience, you stop reacting impulsively and begin responding wisely. And when you choose thoughts of self-belief, you unlock a part of yourself that fear kept hidden for years. Your mind believes what you repeat. If you repeatedly tell it you're weak, it will show you weakness everywhere. If you repeatedly tell it you're capable, it will show you opportunities you never noticed. The mind filters reality based on your thoughts, not your circumstances. This is why consciously choosing your thoughts is not a small practice. It's a life-changing discipline. It requires awareness. It requires pauses. It requires resetting your inner dialogue again and again. But every time you do it, you strengthen your mental muscles. You become less reactive, less anxious, less controlled by the noise of the world. You begin to live intentionally, not emotionally. You begin to think powerfully, not fearfully. You begin to design your life from the inside out. And when you master your thoughts, you master your life. Because every change you want begins in the mind long before it becomes reality. Reacting is the easiest thing in the world. It requires no awareness, no self-control, no wisdom, just impulse. Someone says something unpleasant, and before we even understand what's happening, our emotions explode. Someone disappoints us, and frustration rises like fire. Something unexpected happens, and fear takes over instantly. This is how most people live, not by choice, but by emotional reflex. And the biggest tragedy is that reacting often feels like strength, when in reality, it is the biggest sign that we have lost control. Responding, on the other hand, is one of the most powerful abilities a human being can develop. It is the ability to pause, to breathe, to observe, to understand, and then to act. It is the art of mastering the space between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, once said, "In that space lies our growth and our freedom." Those words are not just inspiring, they are deeply practical. Because everyday life tests us, people test us, circumstances test us. And that space, that tiny gap, determines the quality of our life. When you react instantly, you operate from emotion, not intelligence. Your brain shifts to survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze. Logic shuts down, perspective narrows, and the emotional brain hijacks your decision making. The result, you say things you never meant to say. You do things you later regret. You break relationships that could have been saved. You create stress that could have been avoided. You take decisions that harm your peace and your future. Think about it. How many conflicts in your life came not from what happened, but from how you reacted to what happened? Responding requires strength because it demands awareness. It demands maturity. It demands emotional responsibility. But in that responsibility lies tremendous power. When you respond instead of react, you don't let people control your emotions. You don't let situations define your mood. You don't let anger, ego, or fear drive your choices. You step into leadership, not of others, but of yourself. Responding means taking a breath before speaking. It means observing your emotions without becoming them. It means asking, what outcome do I want? Instead of, how do I feel right now? It means choosing wisdom over impulse, long-term peace over short-term release. A person who reacts quickly may look powerful, but they are actually fragile because anything can disturb them. A person who responds calmly may look soft, but they are actually unshakable because they choose their actions consciously. This shift changes everything. Your relationships improve because you communicate. From patience, not anger. Your work improves because you think with clarity, not stress. Your self-respect grows because you trust your own judgment. And your inner peace strengthens because you are no longer a puppet to your emotions. Reacting is being controlled. Responding is being in control. There is immense strength in silence. There is healing in pausing. There is wisdom in waiting a few seconds before replying. And those few seconds can save your day, your decisions, and sometimes even your relationships. Life will not stop throwing challenges at you. People will not always behave the way you expect. Circumstances will not always align with your plans. But the power to respond with wisdom, calmness, and clarity gives you the ability to turn any situation into an opportunity for growth. Mastering the pause is mastering your life. When you learn to respond instead of react, you don't just change your behavior, you transform your character, your relationships, your peace, and ultimately your destiny. The people you surround yourself with are not just companions, they are influences, energies, and silent sculptors shaping the direction of your life. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is constantly teaching you, affecting you, molding you, and slowly becoming the standard you unconsciously adjust yourself to. Human beings are deeply social creatures. We absorb attitudes, beliefs, habits, moods, and even dreams from the people around us. This is why choosing your circle wisely is not just a suggestion. It is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make for your growth. Most people underestimate this truth. They think their motivation, willpower, and discipline are enough to overcome negative environments. But even the strongest minds get influenced. Even the most determined hearts get discouraged when surrounded by small thinkers. Even the brightest spirits get dim when trapped in a circle that doesn't believe in growth. Your environment is stronger than your willpower, not because you're weak, but because influence works silently. It works gradually, it works consistently. Spend enough time with people who complain, and you will start seeing problems everywhere. Spend enough time with people who blame, and you will begin justifying your failures. Spend enough time with people who gossip, and you will slowly stop focusing on yourself. But spend enough time with people who grow, and you will grow. Spend enough time with people who dream big, and your own dreams will expand. Spend enough time with people who take responsibility, and your character will strengthen. Spend enough time with people who inspire, and you will naturally feel motivated. Growth-minded people don't just lift you, they challenge you. They don't just praise you, they hold you accountable. They don't just support your journey, they push you toward your highest potential. They celebrate your success without jealousy. They correct you without ego. They inspire you not with their words, but with their mindset, choices, and discipline. A growth-minded environment changes you in subtle but powerful ways. It normalizes ambition. It normalizes learning. It normalizes consistency. It normalizes emotional maturity. It normalizes healthy conversations about purpose, goals, habits, and improvement. Slowly, you start expecting more from yourself, not because someone forced you, but because the environment around you raises your internal standards. You begin to see what's possible. You begin to realize that your limitations were not why. Our truth, they were simply the limits of the people you surrounded yourself with. The opposite is also true. A limiting environment shrinks your dreams. You stop aiming high because nobody else around you does. You silence your ambitions because others mock or misunderstand them. You play small to fit in. You hide your growth to avoid making others uncomfortable. Without realizing it, you exchange your potential for acceptance, and the price of that acceptance is your future. This is why being selective is not arrogance, it is self-respect. You don't need perfect people around you. You need people who want to grow, people who are willing to improve, people who are humble enough to learn and strong enough to change, people who talk about solutions, not just problems, people whose presence makes you feel like becoming a better version of yourself. And sometimes the most powerful step is not adding good people, but letting go of the wrong ones. Because when you remove draining, toxic, negative influences, you make space for growth, energizing, supportive, wise influences to enter your life. Your circle is not something to take casually. It is a reflection of your future. Show me your circle, I can predict your mindset. Show me your closest 5 people, and I can predict your habits. Show me your environment, and I can predict your destiny. Surround yourself with growth-minded people, not because it's fashionable, but because your future depends on it. Your environment can either nourish your dreams or suffocate them. It can either build your confidence or slowly destroy it. It can either push you forward or hold you back for years. Choose people who inspire you to rise. Choose people who challenge you to evolve. Choose people who live the kind of life you owe. Be proud to grow into. Your life changes dramatically the moment your circle does. In today's world, we are drowning in noise, not the noise of traffic or crowds, but the constant digital noise that never lets our mind rest. From the moment we open our eyes, our brain is bombarded with updates, notifications, messages, comparisons, opinions, and endless streams of information. We wake up and immediately hand over our peace to a device. Without realizing it, the first voice we hear in the morning is not our own, it's the world's. And slowly, silently, this digital noise becomes the background soundtrack of our life. The tragedy is that we no longer know what our own mind sounds like. We know the voices of influencers, celebrities, news anchors, social media creators, but we don't know the voice of our inner wisdom, the quiet guidance that used to be our compass. When the world is loud, the voice within becomes soft. When the screen dominates our attention, the soul starves for space. This is why reducing digital noise is not just a productivity hack. It is a path to reclaiming your mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual depth. Every notification is a tiny break in your attention. Every scroll is a withdrawal from your mental energy. Every comparison is a cut to your self-esteem. And every hour spent online is an hour taken away from your dreams, your purpose, your growth, and your relationships. People say they don't have time, but the truth is, time is eaten up in small, invisible bites throughout the day. 5 minutes here, 12 minutes there, 30 minutes scrolling without awareness. And before we know it, our life becomes a blur of distractions rather than a journey of intention. But the deepest cost of digital noise is not time. It is the disconnection from ourselves. We no longer sit with our thoughts. We avoid silence. We avoid stillness. We avoid our fears and emotions by drowning them under videos, reels, memes, and messages. But the things we avoid eventually rule us. Silence feels uncomfortable only because it forces us to listen to what we've been running from. And here lies the secret: inner noise grows when outer noise increases. When the phone is loud, the mind becomes louder. When the world is chaotic, the thoughts become chaotic. When attention is scattered, emotions become unstable. But when you reduce digital noise, something magical happens. The mind becomes clear, the thoughts become soft, the emotions settle, the inner voice becomes audible again. You start hearing your intuition, your creativity, your purpose, your inner wisdom. You begin to think deeply instead of constantly reacting. You begin to live intentionally instead of automatically. Disconnecting from digital noise does not mean abandoning technology. It means using it consciously. It means choosing when to engage and when to disengage. It means protecting your attention like a sacred resource. It means creating boundaries, turning off notifications, putting the phone away during meals, giving yourself tech-free mornings or evenings, taking regular digital detox breaks, using your device as a tool, not a master. When you reduce digital noise, you increase inner presence. You become more aware of your surroundings, your relationships, your goals, your habits. You notice beauty again, the beauty of nature, conversations, silence, creativity, even your breath. You feel life instead of scrolling past it. Most importantly, you reconnect with the deepest part of yourself, the part that knows what makes you happy, what gives you peace, what excites your soul, what drains your energy, what your purpose feels like. That inner connection cannot happen in a noisy environment. Your soul does not shout, it whispers, and you can hear it only when the world becomes quiet. Reducing digital noise is not just about unplugging, it is about upgrading your life. It is about reclaiming focus, protecting your mental health, nurturing your creativity, and strengthening your emotional resilience. It is about choosing presence over distraction, awareness over autopilot, and intentional living over digital addiction. Disconnect from the world a little, to reconnect with yourself a lot. Your mind, your peace, and your future will thank you. Excuses are one of the most subtle but powerful forces that hold people back from becoming who they are meant to be. They sound harmless, they sound logical, they sound justified. But excuses are like invisible chains. They don't hurt, they don't shout, they don't look dangerous, yet they keep you exactly where you are, year after year, silently stealing your potential. And the worst part, excuses feel comfortable. They feel safe, they feel familiar. Taking responsibility, on the other hand, feels uncomfortable, but it is the only doorway to growth. Every time you make an excuse, you give your power away. You hand your future to circumstances, to other people, to luck, to timing, to situations you cannot control. When you say, I can't because of this, or I won't because of that, what you're actually saying is, my life is not in my hands. Excuses make you a victim. Responsibility makes you a creator. And here is the truth, your life changes the moment you stop explaining your limitations and start exploring your possibilities. Excuses are attractive back, as they protect your comfort zone. They save you from effort, from embarrassment, from uncertainty, from the fear of failure. They let you stay where you are without feeling guilty. But comfort zones are silent prisons. They give you temporary relief, but long-term regret. You can't grow inside a box of your own excuses. When you take responsibility, you take ownership of your life. Responsibility does not mean everything is your fault. It simply means you accept that your response is always your choice. No matter what happens to you, you choose your attitude, your effort, your mindset, and your actions. That is where your true power lies. People who make excuses blame the world for their problems. People who take responsibility change themselves to change their world. People who make excuses look for reasons to quit. People who take responsibility look for ways to win. People who make excuses delay their dreams. People who take responsibility build their dreams step by step. When you replace excuses with responsibility, you immediately shift from being powerless to powerful. You realize that progress is not about perfection, it's about ownership. Even if you make small mistakes, at least the mistakes are yours. And because they are yours, you can fix them, you can improve, you can grow. But if you blame everyone else, you stay stuck forever. Taking responsibility also builds self-respect. When you keep commitments to yourself, you start trusting yourself. When you follow through even when it's difficult, your confidence grows. When you take action, instead of giving explanations, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone who wishes, but as someone who works. This mindset change affects every area of your life. In your career, you don't wait for opportunities, you create them. In your relationships, you don't blame, you communicate and improve. In your health, you don't complain, you take daily steps. In your habits, you don't postpone, you show up. In your dreams, you don't just imagine, you build. Excuses are heavy burdens disguised as comfort. When you drop them, you feel lighter, clearer, more alive. Taking responsibility feels difficult at first because it puts the spotlight on your own actions. But that spotlight is where transformation begins. It forces you to see your potential, not just your problems. The most successful, peaceful, and fulfilled people in the world are not the ones who avoid challenges. They are the ones who take responsibility for how they respond to them. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for anyone else to change. They decide, if it's going to happen, it starts with me. Your future starts the moment you stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? It starts the moment you stop seeing obstacles and start seeing solutions. It starts the moment you stop pointing fingers and start taking charge. When you replace excuses with responsibility, you don't just change your behavior, you change your destiny. Gratitude is one of the simplest practices in the world, yet it has the power to transform your entire inner state in ways most people never imagine. It's not just about saying thank you, it's about choosing to see your life through a different lens, a lens that reveals the blessings you already have rather than the problems you constantly chase. Gratitude doesn't change your circumstances overnight, but it completely shifts your experience of them. It doesn't remove challenges, but it strengthens you from within so you can rise above them. Most people live in a mindset of scarcity, always focusing on what's missing. I don't have enough money, I don't have enough success, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough appreciation. This mentality trains the mind to search for lack, and whatever the mind searches for, it finds. Scarcity thinking shrinks your happiness, your energy, and your creativity. It blinds you to opportunities because you're too busy obsessing over what's absent. But gratitude flips that entire mental script. It trains your mind to search for what's working, what's beautiful, what's meaningful, what's improving. And when your mind begins searching for good, it starts attracting more of it. What you appreciate appreciates. Gratitude expands your emotional capacity. It reconnects you with a sense of abundance. Not abundance in the form of material riches, but abundance in the form of peace, perspective, and joy. People often underestimate gratitude because it feels too simple. But simplicity is where the deepest truths live. Gratitude rewires the brain. Neuroscience shows that when you practice gratitude consistently, you reduce anxiety, increase happiness, improve decision-making, strengthen emotional resilience, and break patterns of negativity. It is one of the few practices that can improve your mental health, emotional stability, and even physical well-being without costing you money or requiring any tools. But beyond the science, gratitude has a spiritual power. It softens the heart. It humbles the ego. It reminds you that despite imperfections, life has been kind in many ways. It helps you reconnect with meaning. It deepens your relationships because appreciation strengthens bonds far more than criticism ever could. Gratitude is also a beautiful antidote to comparison. In today's world, comparison steals more happiness than any external problem ever will. You see others succeeding, traveling, celebrating, achieving, and without gratitude you start feeling behind, inadequate, unworthy. But when you practice gratitude, you shift your focus inward. You begin to see your own journey, your own blessings, your own strengths. You realize that your life doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. And gratitude is not only about the big things. In fact, the life-changing magic lies in noticing the small things. The warmth of sunlight, the smile of a loved one, the comfort of food, the ability to breathe, the opportunities before you, the lessons that shaped you, the growth you've achieved that you once prayed for. When you begin acknowledging these moments, you create an inner environment where stress cannot dominate and negativity cannot easily survive. You start elevating your mood naturally because gratitude increases emotional stability. Even during difficult times, gratitude helps you see light, not by pretending the darkness isn't there, but by reminding you that the darkness is not all there is. Gratitude also gives you strength in moments of pain. When life feels heavy, gratitude helps you recognize that even in difficulty, there is something to hold on to, a lesson, a blessing, a perspective. It doesn't deny your suffering, it gives you the courage to walk through it without losing yourself. Practicing gratitude daily doesn't require hours. It can be as simple as pausing for a few seconds, taking a breath, and asking yourself, what is one thing I can appreciate right now? This question gently guides your mind back to balance, clarity, and perspective. G. Gratitude doesn't make life perfect. It makes life peaceful. It makes life meaningful. It makes you stronger, kinder, and more grounded. Once you cultivate gratitude consistently, you stop chasing happiness. You begin living it. Because true happiness is not found in a bigger house, a nicer car, a perfect body, or a perfect life. It is found in appreciating the life you already have while growing into the life you desire. Gratitude doesn't change the world around you. It changes the world within you, and that change transforms everything else. Self-discipline is one of the most misunderstood powers in human life. Many people think discipline is about punishment, restriction, or forcing yourself to do things you hate, but true discipline is the opposite. It is an act of deep self-respect. It is the quiet, consistent commitment to becoming the person you know you are capable of being. It is choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It is doing what matters even when your feelings tell you not to. And it is the single greatest predictor of success, inner peace, stability, and transformation. Most people don't struggle because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They struggle because they lack discipline. They rely on motivation, which comes and goes like weather. One day you feel inspired, the next day you feel drained. If your life depends on motivation, you will always move in circles, full of enthusiasm in the morning, full of excuses by night. Discipline, however, is not emotional. It is a decision. It is a lifestyle. It is a form of self-leadership. When you develop discipline, your life stops depending on how you feel today and starts depending on who you want to become tomorrow. Discipline builds identity. Every time you follow through, you prove something to yourself. I am someone who shows up. Every time you complete a small task, you reinforce a belief, I can trust myself. Every time you push through resistance, you expand your limits. I am stronger than my excuses. This internal identity shift is more powerful than any external reward. Because success is not built in big moments, it is built in the small daily choices that nobody sees. Discipline is waking up a little earlier. Discipline is putting the phone away. Discipline is working when distractions call your name. Discipline is saying no to temptations that steal your future. Discipline is choosing progress over pleasure, focus over noise, consistency over intensity. It is not glamorous, it is not exciting, it is often boring, repetitive, and lonely. But that's exactly why so few people achieve greatness. Because most people quit when the process becomes uncomfortable. They want results, but they don't want responsibility. They want success, but they don't want sacrifice. They want growth, but they don't want resistance. Discipline gives you an advantage because it creates separation. When others give in, you continue. When others get distracted, you stay focused. When others break their promises to themselves, you honor yours. That separation compounds over time. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, months into years, and suddenly you are living a life most people only dream about. One of the biggest benefits of discipline is that it protects your mind from chaos. A disciplined life is a structured life, and structure creates stability. Without discipline, your day is controlled by impulses, social media, cravings, laziness, emotional swings, distractions. With discipline, your day is directed by intention. Purpose, clarity, responsibility, goals, habits. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. Discipline also strengthens emotional resilience. When you practice self-control daily, your mind learns that discomfort is not an enemy. It is a teacher. You stop running from challenges. You stop fearing difficulty. You stop avoiding situations that require effort. You develop mental toughness, the ability to stay steady even when storms hit, and storms will hit. Life will challenge you, discourage you, overwhelm you. Without discipline, these moments break you. With discipline, these moments shape you. You no longer collapse under pressure, you rise through it. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it begins small. You don't have to transform everything at once. You just need to win the next minute, the next decision, the next step. Discipline grows like a muscle. Start where you are with what you can handle and gradually increase your expectations. Drink water instead of soda. Read 10 minutes instead of scrolling 30 minutes. Walk for 5 minutes instead of lying down again. Finish one task instead of postponing all of them. Sleep on time instead of watching just one more video. Small wins create big momentum. A disciplined person is not perfect. They are simply committed. They fail, but they don't quit. They get tired, but they don't stop. They feel doubt, but they keep moving forward. They don't wait for the perfect mood, the perfect time, the perfect plan. They show up consistently, quietly, deliberately, and eventually discipline becomes freedom. Freedom from procrastination, freedom from regret, freedom from guilt, freedom from chaos, freedom from living below your potential. Self-discipline is not a cage. It is the key that opens every door you dream of walking through. It gives you control over your life, your habits, your health, your success, your emotions, your future. Your dreams need your discipline more than your desire. Desire will inspire you. Discipline will transform you. Once you master discipline, you don't just change your routine, you change your reality. Building one life, changing habit every 30 days is one of the most practical and powerful strategies for long-term transformation. Most people want to change their lives overnight. They aim to overhaul everything: diet, exercise, relationships, mindset, career, spirituality, all at once. But the human mind and willpower are not wired for that kind of radical instant transformation. We burn out, we get overwhelmed, we fail, and then we feel defeated, thinking we are incapable of change. The truth is, lasting change doesn't happen through massive leaps. It happens through small, consistent steps. And that is where life-changing habits come in. When you focus on building a single habit every month, you create a rhythm of incremental growth. One small positive action, repeated consistently, compounds over time into massive results. It's the principle of compound interest applied to human life. Tiny improvements may feel almost invisible on a daily basis, but over weeks, months, and years, they lead to extraordinary transformation. The key is to choose the habit that will produce the most meaningful impact and then give it your full attention for 30 days, 1 month, just 30 days. The magic of 30 days is in its simplicity. It is not overwhelming, it is achievable, it creates momentum. When you succeed in building one habit, you gain confidence, self-trust, and motivation. You prove to yourself that change is possible, and that proof fuels your next habit. It becomes a domino effect. One small victory triggers the next. Your identity starts to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who fails at change and start seeing yourself as someone capable of growth, consistency, and progress. Not all habits are created equal. Some have exponential power because they touch multiple areas of your life. A morning routine, for example, sets the tone for productivity, mental clarity, health, and emotional balance. Journaling or meditation improves focus, emotional intelligence, and stress resilience. Exercise doesn't just improve your body, it enhances discipline, confidence, and energy levels. Reading daily expands your knowledge, perspective, and creativity. Each habit is like planting a seed. Some grow slowly, some quickly, but all contribute to a stronger, healthier, more empowered version of you. The key is consistency, not intensity. You don't need to run a marathon on day 1, meditate for 2 hours, or wake up at 4 a.m. immediately. You just need to start. A manageable, repeatable action that becomes automatic over time. The brain loves repetition. Repetition rewires neural pathways. Repetition turns conscious effort into unconscious behavior. This is why focusing on one habit at a time is more effective than attempting multiple massive changes simultaneously. Another crucial aspect is reflection. At the end of each 30-day period, evaluate the habit, celebrate progress, notice the difference it has made in your energy, mindset, productivity, or relationships, adjust if necessary, then intentionally choose the next habit, one that builds on the foundation you've just created. In this way, your life becomes a carefully constructed sequence of micro transformations that accumulate into extraordinary growth over the years. Small habits also teach patience and resilience. You realize that meaningful change is not instant. You learn to trust the process rather than seeking shortcuts or instant gratification. You begin to embrace discomfort because you understand that growth often comes from stepping slightly outside your comfort zone. You develop persistence because you see firsthand how small, consistent efforts multiply over time. This approach transforms not just your behavior, but your identity. Instead of being someone who tries and fails, you become someone who builds, improves, and grows consistently. You start seeing yourself as disciplined, intentional, and capable of transformation. Your confidence increases, your focus sharpens, and your energy multiplies. Before long, you are no longer chasing change, change is chasing you. Opportunities, success, and personal fulfillment begin to appear naturally because your habits have aligned your actions with your goals and values. By committing to one life-changing habit, every 30 days, you create a framework for continuous improvement. You are no longer dependent on motivation or external circumstances. You stop waiting for the right moment. You stop procrastinating. You start moving forward deliberately, consistently, and strategically. Each habit compounds, builds, and accelerates your growth. In 1 year, you could have 12 powerful habits ingrained. In 5 years, 60. And in 10 years, your life will be unrecognizable compared to where you started. Not because of luck or magic, but because of the relentless, patient power of small intentional habits. Remember, transformation is not a sprint, it's a marathon of small, purposeful steps. Focus on one life-changing habit at a time. Give it 30 days of consistent effort. Build momentum, celebrate progress, then move to the next. Over time, your small habits will add up to monumental changes, and you will realize that the life you dreamed of was being built quietly, one habit at a time, all along.